Well, we have certainly seen such decimation within the tech sector in 2022. We've just received a number of the earnings calls and earnings results, which maybe are better than feared. But there's a lot of question marks in terms of whether or not now is the time to get back into some of these tech stocks, which were down by about 30% easily in 2022, and whether or not some of the rallies that we've seen thus far in 2023 are in fact sustainable. So who better to get perspective from than Dan Ives, somebody I've been interviewing for many, many years, managing director over at Wedbush Securities, covering about 35 tech names. Dan, thanks so much for joining us and giving us your perspective today on what to do in this very confusing market, particularly with respect to tech.
Man, it's great to be here and talk to you. Look, as me and you have talked for many, many years, it's an uncertain environment, but we believe tech stocks way overcorrected in 2022. And also, if you look, earnings season's been better than feared. I mean, these companies ripped the Band-Aid off, cut numbers, and I think stocks are as underowned as I've seen since 2009. And now a soft landing went from a 5% chance to probably a 60% chance plus. That's why I think tech stocks are up so much so far this year.
Right. And it's interesting, though, because to your point, better than feared, but some of the commentary from the company managements, and I guess this is where I'm confused in terms of how bullish or aggressive I want to be within tech. I mean, they were pretty cautionary comments, whether it was the consumer is slowing down, cloud businesses are slowing down, the ad business is slowing down. Everything across the big bellwethers like Apple, Google, Amazon, Microsoft was really to the downside as it relates to the outlook for 2023. So it's hard to get excited, I think.
Yeah, look, I hear you. But I think slowing down, it's important to understand really what the growth looks like. I mean, I think in tech, especially in certain sectors, cloud, enterprise, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, you still have 35-40% type of growth. You have a much more of a spending slowdown in digital advertising and some other areas. But I think if you look, demand on the consumer and enterprise is holding up pretty well. And I think it's also what's reflected in these tech stocks. I think a lot of bad news reflected when you look at names like Microsoft, you look at names like Meta, names like Apple, and the cost cuts are happening. And that's important because cost cuts ultimately lay the groundwork for what I view as the next cycle.
Why is it, though, that they needed to have such cost cuts? I mean, the narrative in the marketplace is that they overhired during COVID. I don't know. I mean, I find that a little bit hard to believe that that's the reason. What really is going on as to why they need to cut costs so aggressively?
I think it's a combination. I think a lot of these tech firms were hiring like 1980s rock stars. They were spending money like that the last 5-6 years. And then pandemic, you saw pull forward demand. These companies hired like hypergrowth is going to continue. But ultimately, the clock struck midnight on hypergrowth. And now you're starting to see tech companies needing to adjust to a softer environment. And I think that's really why you're seeing, what I view as probably the biggest cost cuts we've seen for tech since 2009.
Okay. I do want to go through some of the names because there's so many names under your coverage, which is phenomenal, which is why I really wanted to get you on my program. And you're doing it from Penn Station. So thank you for making time for us. Let's take a look at Apple and Apple's results and how you view the stock right now.
I mean, I think Apple demand's holding up pretty resilient. iPhone, you have 250 million iPhones that have been upgraded in the last 4 years. China, there's share gains. In China, if you look, the shortages was clearly the culprit for the December shortfall, but now we're seeing a reacceleration. And that's similar to what we're seeing with Tesla as well, which is why those are two of our favorite names.
Okay. And with Apple as well, and we're going to pick it up on the other side of the break, it's interesting and amazing to me that they have an installed base of 2 billion users, just to put this in perspective.
It's a golden install base. It's why I view them as a rock of Gibraltar tech stock that can navigate really better than any other. And it's why also they're not laying off to the level we've seen other tech firms. That's why Cook continues to be a Hall of Fame CEO, the way he's navigated Apple.